Hello everybody, my name is Zerdoku and welcome back to ShoeOnHead. This time around we're going to do something a lot more, this is our final ShoeOnHead video for tonight, and this time it will definitely be something a little bit, a little more lighter, more sillier. So let's do this. This is the female goomers must be stopped. Let's see what this is.
Oh, I didn't see you there. What am I reading, you ask? Well, just one of the best-selling books on Amazon right now. With millions of sales and almost 20,000 five-star reviews.
Oh, really?
This book has been absolutely blowing up, especially on TikTok or...
I love books. So what do we got here, this Shoe? I'm interested. I love artwork.
Book Talk, as the kids call it. Thousands and thousands of women in particular have been raving about this piece of literature. What piece of literature is it, you may ask? Well, Morning Glory Milk
Farm. Ugh. So this is a the female fantasy. Well, we did do the male fantasy, so I guess it would make sense to do a female fantasy. So how about we get started then?
Farm, of course. A popular romance novel about a young woman down on her luck who does what every young woman does when facing financial struggle. She starts an OnlyFans. No, I'm just kidding. She wouldn't degrade herself like that. She gets a job jerking off monsters.
It would make sense to go for OnlyFans in that situation, but now she gets a job jerking off monsters. You know what? I'm just gonna let the video play, and I'll voice my opinion later.
That's right, the Morning Glory Milking Farm.
I have been reading Morning Glory Milking Farm since last night, and I'm obsessed.
This was a good time. It did not disappoint.
If this book is trash, then I am a f***ing raccoon.
Give
me all of the garbage.
Get your eyeballs on this, because it is so good.
Okay.
I regret to inform you that there is a new epidemic. An epidemic that many have yet to discuss. And that epidemic is female gooners.
Of course we don't pay attention to women's porn, because women are much more louder and don't allow people saying, "Oh, you're weird for liking this stuff." You know what I mean?
Now, for those of you unaware, gooner is internet slang for someone addicted to porn. And smut is slang for dark romance novels, otherwise known as porn. Many correct about the dangers of
because I did not know that beforehand.
addiction with men, how it can destroy their lives and their relationships, and most men know the material they consume is weird. That is why they are ashamed of it. That is why they delete their browser history. That is why they go incognito mode. But these bitches freaks out here. They display their smut openly in bookstores. They proudly pose in front of their smut collections. They discuss their smut openly on TikTok. They go to smut conventions and get choked out by 9-foot-tall shirtless wendigos. Now, I know what you are thinking. Shoe, isn't this the pot calling the kettle degenerate? Yes. Yes, it is. But have you considered it takes one to truly know one? You see, women are strange, fascinating.
But also because just because you're a woman doesn't mean you can point out other women being weird with their porn addictions. But however, at the same time, I would like to mention that I don't think there's nothing wrong with being a gooner. And yes, technically, I'm also a gooner, but I feel like we're all gooners in some way, shape, or form, and I think it's normal for, men and women having sexual fantasies of the opposite sex, as in, it's normal for a woman to have sexual fantasies with a man, and a man having sexual fantasies about women. I feel like that's very, very freaking normal, and so, honestly, on this one, I don't think it's weird that they're showing it off. Yes, because I feel like any amount of porn should should be behind locked doors. Like if you have some sort of weird sexual fetish or whatever, that should be kept behind locked doors, even though it's technically normal.
creatures. For centuries, men have tried to figure us out. Our mood is affected by the tides and the moon. We bleed for 5 days and don't die. By painting my face, I can instantly shapeshift from a 4 to a 6. We are truly mysterious, magical creatures. But one of the most mysterious aspects of women to men is our sexuality.
Yeah.
You see, us women are not like those disgusting moids. No, we are sophisticated. We are evolved. We don't watch videos of strangers slapping their sweaty bodies together. No, we read about strangers slapping their
I'm sorry to say this, dear women, but there's nothing sophisticated about the difference between video pornography and what I like to call book porn, where it's reading. Actually, I've actually written a few highly sexual scenes, as you guys probably know before, and I just call that book porn. But it's not only normal, but it's also a form. It's a form of art. If you wind back the clock, like 100 years from now or whatever, back in the olden days, where it was acceptable for men to be drawing naked men and naked women, and if you look at the old original versions of like some of the portraits of like angels and demons and stuff, you notice that they're not wearing clothes and their genitalia is all out. That was considered art, and honestly, admiring nature's beauty, natural beauty, with men and women not wearing clothes, I think is a very important thing in our society. But yes, we should keep it away from children, just because it's a little too much. But beyond that, I really feel like it shouldn't be part of cancel culture.
sweaty bodies together. It's different, okay? You don't understand. It's okay when we do
That is exactly how women act when you start pointing them out for their pornography. But I feel like we need to understand that both men and women need to have porn, because when we get to our a certain age, when we start puberty, when we start get to puberty and we start noticing the other opposite sex as attractiveness, we can get very horny, and the more we ignore those hormones, the more harder it is to control our emotions. And that's why we really need porn, as a way to relieve ourselves from our hormones.
it. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the rapidly growing popularity of dark romance on TikTok and the recent dark romance convention that ended in disaster.
Oh God.
Let's take a break from all this depressing political news and talk about something silly.
Why not?
Not that those political things aren't important, trust me, they are.
They
you
are
should be
important.
keeping up with politics and the news when you can. I know it can be difficult to do, but fear not. I have an app for that. So before we get into this video, let's
Yeah,
quickly give a
about
shout out
that
to our
there,
sponsor
Shue. We're gonna
code
skip
here
over.
on screen, or use the link in the video description. So thank you to Ground News for sponsoring this video, and thank you, the viewer, for not skipping the ad. Right?
Don't start,
So
Shue.
let's
Don't
get
start.
back to the video. Book Talk is a very interesting place, and any book fans out there know how it has absolutely destroyed the hobby of literature and just flooded it with absolute.
I wouldn't say that it destroyed the literature, but to be fair, books have been kind of forgotten, unfortunately, thanks to movies and video games. But honestly, I feel like books should be able to exist with movies and video games, and I feel like people should stop writing and stop releasing, like, trying to think of it, in like repeats and sequels. Instead of doing that, we should have people writing original stuff and using that original stuff as a start for, making movies, just like we used to do back in the olden days. Like, for an example, Jaws. Yeah. I'm just gonna go with that one.
Slop. Spicy slop. You see, books on TikTok are not rated by how well they are written or how good the characters are. No, they are rated by the spice. And what does spice mean? Porn. It means porn. Spice
Okay.
level is very important
I'm not aware of this, but yeah, sure. I guess we can go with that, and that does make sense.
to book talkers. How much spice does a book have? What are the spiciest books they have ever read? How spicy is the book they're currently reading? Spice, spice, spice. The spiciest book going viral on Book Talk lately is none other than Morning Glory Milking Farm by C.M. Nascosta.
Okay.
Violet is a typical down-on-her-luck millennial, mid-20s, overeducated, and drowning in debt. Oh my god! She's just like...
It sounds like a serious, like, stab at society. Just like when I was with the Infection book that I have written, where it was a stab towards how small towns are constantly forgotten, and there's so many towns that are just losing jobs and stuff to things like automation and cheap foreign labor and all that. But also, even with all that, a lot of towns are losing jobs and not able to maintain those areas. Matter of fact, in the small towns that I've lived in, I've seen so many like companies just stop, existing. They just become run down, and that was the stab I have for like with the Infection story, where it's just talking about people being laid off their jobs. So many different factory companies just going kapoof, and this is a stab towards how men and women are being treated in society in terms of jobs. So it's a nice piece of artwork already.
Me! On the verge of moving into her parents' basement, when a lifeline appears in the form of a very unconventional job in the neighboring
Interesting.
Cambric Creek. She has no choice but to grab it with both hands.
There was no need to do that reference, but it's kind of like with High School DxD, where there were some unnecessary shots, but they did it anyway because it's a show about fan service. So I see what they're getting at here.
Morning Glory Farm offers full-time hours, full benefits, and generous pay with no experience needed. There's only one catch. The clientele is grade A certified prime beef. With the manly, meaty endowments to... Okay.
It's to me it sounds like a very interesting book of not only a stab towards how people are working, but also the fantasization of like I don't know how to explain it, but for some reason the idea of I know that it's not just a morning milking farm, but it was also like like others like stuff that has to do with like furries and fantasy creatures being in love with human women or men, or the opposite or whatever. It's the idea of that, basically that same idea. And I don't know why in years of literature that's been a thing, but I guess it's just there's some sort of fantasization going on here, and honestly it's all harmless, I think, in terms of it's just fantasy, so I don't think it's that big of a deal, and it's not that weird to me. Like, I understand that people have their own weird fetishes, and it's like and stuff like for an example, I think the best example is that there's an anime where I call them harem animes, where a bunch of girls are in love with one guy, but there's one in particular where it's a bunch of monster girls that are in love with this one anime teenager, and there's even one girl that's basically a centaur, and I'm just like, holy crap, there are a lot of weird fetishes out there, I have to say, but I don't know, it just makes a very good, interesting storytelling for somehow, even though it's this weird sexualization, to be honest.
Morning Glory Milking Farm is actually a profound critique of late-stage capitalism and toxic masculinity. In this text, we see that the tingling sensation in her coochie is actually the tingling sensation of a Marxist revolution.
No, it is not. Although I will say that it is a metaphor for toxic masculinity. Now that I think about it, that makes sense with the idea of women falling in love with monsters because monsters are strong and powerful. So women, are attracted to, the more effective, more powerful male, But there is something odd that I will point out later. I'm just going to let the video play for now.
This is every fucking BreadTube video to me, dude. This is every Jack Saint video. So I actually read the book myself.
What's a Jack Saint video?
I'm not gonna lie. The 19th Amendment.
I think it's one of those things that I really should not. You know what? I'm not gonna ask that question. Just back to the video.
Abolished. So, like I said, the story is basically this millennial named Violet, and she gets a job basically working at Big Pharma in Narnia, where they harvest Minotaur milk to make Viagra for human males.
That makes sense.
And I read the whole thing. Probably gonna be put on some kind of watch list, but
yeah, no, I don't think so.
Listen, this is my job, okay? I'm not out here, selling feet pics or something. What I do is far more dignified.
I don't understand the people's gooner, fantasization about feet. Honestly, I think feet are disgusting. You know what? Back to the video.
And normal. Now, let's take a look at some of these notes I wrote. Let's see. Big dick and balls. At one point, she says the term, and I quote,
I would imagine that, Minotaurs do have some pretty well-developed,
the seam of his sack. So I'm reading this.
That's a hell of a description.
And the whole time I'm thinking, okay, he probably has, a human head, right? He probably, looks something like this. Just a dude with,
Yeah, this is basically, your typical, anime furry, design for, furries, I guess they can call them, but I wouldn't necessarily call them furries. I don't know. Now I'm being stupid. Back to the video.
Horns. Then I see the official artwork.
Oh my dear God. It's a little minotaur. Okay, now I have to say the thing that I've been meaning to say this whole video. I really have to question this, and I hope I don't the video doesn't get taken down for me asking this question or bringing this up. But women out there, girls and women, I have to ask, do you want to be raped or something? Is that what you're trying to say? Is that you really want men to throw away their honor codes and say, bend over and take it kind of deal? Because that's what it seems like. Because it's kind of like, okay, if we take things back to, the typical, knight in shining armor, the knight saving the princess from the dragon concept, which is the idea of the sweet, kind princess falling in love with the honor code man, like paladin knight. Instead of doing that, we have the princess begging the dragon to bend over her and essentially rape her and go to town. And also with King Kong and Creature from the Black Lagoon, there was an interview from the Creature from the Black Lagoon where people asked, we never actually get the chance to actually see what the creature would do with a woman if she actually kept her. And I'm just thinking to myself, I don't think we want to know. Because I'm thinking to myself that eventually the creature will rip off her clothes and basically go to town. And it's basically the same thing with King Kong, especially with the part where he's in the old black and white version when he's taking off her clothes. Yeah, it's very clear that these monsters, they don't just kidnap princesses for this. They basically kidnap them to have like a toy, to basically their own porn toy. And it's almost as if women want men to throw away their honor code and show, like, to be the monsters that they keep locked inside. They want those monsters to be unleashed, and so we can go to town with them because they want to be force bred. That does not make logical sense. Why? Why would you want that?
That's a cow. Bro is a cow. Bro is a straight up cow. In a few parts, they're being intimate, and it will be like, his hooves clip-clopped. My hooves will tear up your sheets.
Good lord.
And it's like, I'm sorry, his what? At one point, she describes kissing him. And I swear to God, it was more disgusting than anything else described in this book. She's like describing how big and wide his mouth is and how big and like slimy his tongue is. She's like describing the shit and you're just like,
That's fucking disgusting.
that's a cow.
Okay, one thing that should be mentioned right off the bat is that technically he's a minotaur, which is basically a cow, but I would say that that minotaur design is like maybe 20% man and the rest of him is cow. What is this anyway? Monster, beast, human shapeshifter, humanoid creature, non-humanoid creature. Those creatures are not human, do not look like humans, and have... okay. Interesting.
I mean, we are at a solid 5.5 on the Barbeau scale here. This is dangerous territory, folks. She also... f***ers his ass.
Oh!
She f***ers the cow's ass. By the way, if you want an uncensored version of this video and all my videos, Patreon. Go to Patreon, become a member. All members get the uncensored version of every video. So you can hear me talking about...
That's just fucking disgusting, guys. Like... Dude, I don't even... I can handle blood, but feces... No. That's when I feel like I'm gonna vomit at that point. And no, Shue, I do not want
and f***ing a cow's ass.
uncensored version.
Is that what you
I'm
freaks
okay with
want?
this.
Anyway, I like how in this fantasy world
I'm okay with
student
just
loans
this
still
video,
exist.
basically.
Like we can imagine a world with minotaurs and humans in a relationship, but we can't imagine a world without student loans. Sad. Oh, and he has one of those...
Yeah, I think it's more... It's not so much that people... we can't imagine a world without it. It's more of like... writers like to try to stick to some form of realism, and I think that's what that is trying to keep things grounded in some form of reality. But yeah,
those
whatever.
bull rings, like the nose ring theory septum rings. And in this world, that means like you're married, but apparently he's divorced. The man is divorced. This is a divorced cow with a cow ex-wife. The lore is deep, folks. The funniest part, though, has to be when they go on a date. I need to just read this to you. When the bill arrived, she attempted to pull a handful of carefully folded bills from her wristlet before he stopped her. No, that's absolutely not happening. Put that away. She'd not thought about it until the day after their first dinner together, realizing that in mortification that she ought to have attempted to pay her half. What kind of feminist are you? She asked herself. She couldn't remember the last time she'd been out and hadn't paid for her half, including her coffee date with Carson Tinsley. She had come prepared that night, several weeks of her tips smoothed and tucked into her wristlet. But I didn't even offer to pay half the other night and shouldn't have... Violet, if the commanding rumble of his voice hadn't silenced her. The heat of his hand dropping to her knee would have. I don't want you to feel that you don't have any agency here. I might be the one giving all the orders.
Can I just say there, guys, their audience, whoever's watching, it's polite, a sign of politeness when a male and a female is going on a date, that both of them should pay, the bill of going out to dinner. It's a sign of politeness. And we men, we like politeness because that shows that you have an honor code. We like honor codes because honor codes is basically people's life and butter. It tells you exactly who a person is. And at least in a men's way. I get the feeling that a lot of women don't seem to have honor codes, which is really weird. But, I don't know. I feel like I'm stepping on too many toes with that one, so I'm not going to let that one go. But this shows exactly the fantasization of how women want men to do all the work and basically pander to them, and I don't like that. I feel like a relationship should be 50-50, no matter how you slice it. I'm not sure if that's a man thing or that's just me, but yeah.
But you hold all the cards. Your comfort is the only thing that counts right now. And if I overstep, I want you to know you can tell me so. But that's not happening. Don't think I'm unaware we're at different points in our careers. You can say no, you can say you don't want to see me again, you can tell me to stop coming to the farm when you're working. It's dinner, not a down payment of your time. But I'm in a position to comfortably spoil someone. So when you're with me, I'm spoiling you. End of story. She was...
I don't have anything to say about that, but that's just like... I don't know. I feel like that's just going too far with, the relationships, but, with, like... that's way too much pandering for me.
She was a good feminist, she told herself, and she definitely couldn't be bought. But if he had suggested at that moment that he would have appreciated a blowjob, she would have fallen face first on his cock with an open mouth without a shred of hesitation. Inside every woman, there are two wolves. Or two bowls. The strong, independent girl boss and the submissive, doting housewife. And in the presence of a masculine man, or a farm animal, she will fold like a lawn chair and instantly return to factory settings.
Sure.
It's dinner, not a down payment for your time. But I'm in a position to comfortably spoil someone, so when you're with me, I'm spoiling you. End of story. I said, okay, I highlighted that paragraph for myself.
Clean up aisle 5. So that's what I thought of it. But what did other people think of it? What are the
I just have to say, this whole thing is just silly.
reviews on this book? This book has a 4.1 on Amazon with 21,000 ratings and a 3.6 on Goodreads with nearly 60,000 ratings. Let's just read some random ones
Okay,
here.
bring it on.
Hear me out. A milking good time.
Ew.
Sweet and creamy.
Oh!
The spice is spicing.
You know what this reminds me of? This makes me think of the toilet humor from Angry Video Game Nerd, I have to say.
I was very leery of starting this because I thought it was just going to be porn. The plot is pretty good. The plot? Please. This is like the new, I read Playboy for the articles, like, sure you do. This book could kill a Victorian child. 5 stars, I'll never look at a jug of milk the same. I think I'm lactose intolerant now. So that happened. Our eyes will never see the gates of heaven. 1 star.
Yeah, that's why I asked that question. Do women really want to be raped? Is that what it is? Is that why there's very little women putting out? Is it because that women don't want to be asked anything? They just want men to go up there to them, grab them, kidnap them, rip off their clothes, and just go to town? Is that what women want? Is because that's what it feels like. That's what it sounds like. What they're saying, and I feel uncomfortable.
Not a helpful guide. This book failed to teach me how to milk a cow, and now my family has no food for the winter. 1 star, accidentally ordered while on pain medication after an operation. Gave this to my mom as a joke gift for Christmas. You what? Sigh. Why can't human males be more like...
Emotional damage is all I have to say about this
like
one.
this. Tall, rich, and handsome are no longer enough, boys. Now you have to be a 9-foot tall creature from Greek mythology with a 13-inch dick. I never want to hear from another.
You know, at least with Crocman, I made this human character named Otis. Otis, who he may be fat, but he's well endowed. I think I may have gone overboard with the description of his size, you know, a downstairs size, but the idea was that don't underestimate a fat dude. Sometimes even when they're fat, sometimes they're well endowed. Sometimes, but that may not be true. It may be just fiction of what I've written. But I think that was probably one of my favorite sex scenes that I've written in a book, and that's why I had Punky read that, and I hope you guys watched that video. But I didn't let him read the whole sex part of the book, and I really should have let him do so, but I just cringed because my problem with those scenes that I've written in those books is that they're not meant to be read out loud. Those are things that you're supposed to read to yourself. Those are books you're supposed to read to yourself.
Person about how they read 100 books in a year if this is the kind of slop they are consuming. Well, Ronald, man detected, this isn't for you. This is...
Yeah, and on top of that, there, Mr. Ronald, it doesn't matter. As long as it's fiction, it really should not be a big deal. I also hate the fact that people attack anime for the same type of reasons, just on the male side, but still, listen, women, you're allowed to goon as much as you want as long as you're not hurting anybody, plain and simple. And that goes for us men too. So leave us gooner man alone, and we'll leave you alone. Capice?
Is for women. So take your ass back to Barely Legal Babysitter 5 or whatever the f*** you watch that is so morally superior than this. Let him who is without sin cast the first stone,
Emotional
okay?
damage,
God
but
bless America.
But
It's
I feel like their shoe that was completely unnecessary. Their shoe completely unnecessary. But emotional damage all the same.
great to live in a country where I can casually enjoy cozy erotica about a young woman who milks her way to financial security and true love with a minotaur. This is what freedom looks like, and I intend to fully enjoy it.
I do disagree that this is what American freedom looks like. To me, this is what true artwork should be. We should have freedom of artwork of what we make. So, preach it, women.
Before the Supreme Court takes this right away next. If this is what freedom looks like, I'm really rethinking my stance on freedom.
You know, you really shouldn't, I understand that you think that this is weird, and that's okay that you think it's weird, but keep in mind, we're all adults, and we should be allowed to have our fantasizations. And no, we really should not be, like, having it out in public, but we should still have it nevertheless.
Not gonna lie. Maybe we should have less of it. All I know is if Donald Trump takes the monster porn, we are going to make 2020 look like a picnic, okay? Bullcock matters. Oh my god. Edit that out. Editor, edit that out.
You know, the fact that you did not edit that out makes me think that everything you're saying about it being weird or wrong is completely invalid. You're just making a joke out of it, which is fine. I'm okay with that.
Women are gonna be picking up Animal Farm now, like, where's the horse cock? Some of you people owe a certain streamer an apology because this book has way too many 5 stars. Some of you are lying. So after buying this book, Amazon has given me a few interesting recommendations. Would you like to see them? I accidentally summoned a demon boyfriend. That time I got drunk and saved a demon. Gentling the beast. Cupcakes for my orc enemy. Mane of my existence. The gargoyle and the spinster. The widow and the orcs. Hoarded by the dragon. There's something about dragons.
Man, they're being very... Man, they're very, very, very blunt with this idea of that they really want to be raped by the dragon, or because I kind of think of the dragon as a metaphor for, like, the bad guy, the villain, basically. So it's almost as if they want the bad guy, want men to be bad guys and just bend them over and go to town. But I still want to continue with the idea, and I think of it being, just, that concept not being true. But I think that's just my brain trying to not accept the idea that women want to be raped because it's wrong. But this is too blatant. This particular book right here, just, there's something about dragons. It's too blatant. Like, I feel like I'm being hit in the head with a blunt weapon, you know what I mean?
Getting it on with gargoyles, gotten by the gator, mated to the mountain bear. Oh, so this is why they chose the bear.
Furry
The
porn
billionaire orc, moth manager,
wow.
wolves and whipped cream, the wolf in my tavern, pounded by produce.
Holy hell. What? I have no words.
So what? Are these the books the Nazis burned?
My husband only reads finance and sci-fi
Are you
books.
trying to say that Nazis are good or something?
So I think it's about time that I introduce him to some real literature. So the first book that I would like to introduce you to is called Morning Glory Milking Farm. And it's not a normal milking farm like with cows. What it is it's...
I really shouldn't be saying this, but considering what I'm watching and what the information my brain is accepting at this point, is that, listen, women, if you're willing to show your porn books to us men, why is it not okay for us men to show our porn to you? There just seems a little bit of unfairness here. But at the same time, I really feel like sharing porn should not be a thing unless it's with your significant other. You know what? I kind of I didn't stop to think about that she's talking about her husband. I'm a freaking idiot. You know what? Back to the video.
Big, bulky minotaurs, and it's a special type of milking.
See, honey, she's his stepsister, and she got stuck in the washing machine again. Women on TikTok are openly, proudly talking about the porn they consume and getting mad at people when they make fun of it. I hereby ban men from reacting to romantasy.
I mean, what do you expect? It's kind of, it's like, it's that same thing where people make fun of other people's porn. Or in some cases, some people want to arrest that person for their, what they have for porn, but what do you expect? This is why we keep our porn behind locked doors, normally.
On TikTok. Best-selling romantasy books like A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Fourth Wing contain descriptions of hot sex. I feel like that's common knowledge, if not their primary purposes. But in recent months, book talk has become full of men clutching their pearls while reacting to steamy scenes from these popular female-centered books. Obviously, this is all a massive performance. We live in the age of OnlyFans. The odds are that these men have seen actual porn that defies the laws of physics and God.
Yeah.
Over 90% of men between the ages 16 and 73 watch porn in any random month. There's statistically no way all of these guys are shocked by the sex itself. What they are gawking at is sex from the perspective of female desire, scenes that depict women coming first and frequently. And what they are surprised by is the women they know love these scenes. In one video, a guy declares, "Now I know why women enjoy book clubs and wine." But his astonishment in itself is astonishing. Like, what do you think adult women were into? Not having sex and drinking wine? Grow up. Imagine a...
Yeah, Yeah, I do have to agree that it is kind of weird that some men are surprised that women, especially older women, sit around and talk about, not necessarily, well, I guess porn, but talking about, adult stuff and being surprised by it. It's weird. Matter of fact, reason why I made some of my books to be rated X and have like some really heavy adult stuff is because I was waiting for the elderly, because I kind of feel like nowadays, even now, even with all this, people who read books are mostly the elderly, like people that are in their late 30s and over, basically, like basically the elderly who don't who sometimes who have a lot of time on their hands because they're either retired or whatever, and they'll just sit down and read a book or something. So I was writing for that particular age group because I didn't want to write. Also, I didn't really want to write to children because I hate pandering to children. I really hate it very badly. So that's the reason why I've written for the elderly. Decided that would be the better. Those two reasons are the reasons why I written for the elderly, is what I'm trying to say. And even before I watched this video, I knew that somewhere out there are a group of women who are talking about, books, even the books with, sexy stuff, because it's adult talk. I mean, I feel like that's normal. If there's no kids around, I feel like it's normal for, the elderly women to be talking about that. It just feels normal. And I also feel like it's normal for men to be talking about that stuff too, to a certain extent. Although for men it's a little more different. But, whatever.
Group of men sitting around drinking wine, discussing the porn they watch. That is what you guys are essentially doing. It's just funny, okay? Like, it's funny. Are we really going to pretend that a story about a young woman getting a job milking mythical creatures to pay off her student debt is not funny?
Yeah, it's hilarious because to me it sounds like your typical harem anime, because most harem animes are comedy and they basically poke fun at their own ideas and concepts, because a lot of it is just silly and weird, and that's what we need to understand as part of the humor. Is sometimes these weird, I guess we can call them pornophatic ideas, but not all of them are technically porn because they don't show very much because they're not allowed to. But regardless, though, it's silly no matter how you slice it, and I feel like none of it should be taken that seriously. Although there is one attempt on a harem story on my end that I didn't get very far with in terms of writing, was the inspiration of the idea of, what if we take that pornographic idea of the harem concept, and instead of like doing something silly, let's do something that is basically the primal concept of men, with the idea of a fight and then sex. Basically, like fight, like caveman kind of thing. Win big fight and then lay woman, basically. And that was the concept for Devil Kid, I believe it was.
It's funny. If that makes me a sexist or misogynist,
technically it really shouldn't, even though I don't know what a misogynist, a sexist is. I think I know what that is, but I'm not 100% sure.
You got me. To act like you are so different and above the other gooners is just, it's silly. I'm sorry, but you are no different than Joe Schmo jorking it to fat booty Latinas in Space 12. You're sitting there all high and mighty, one hand on the book, acting like you're so superior because you can perfectly envision a horse spinning 360 degrees in your mind. I'm not impressed. The scenes these men are reading, to many people, myself included, are insanely sexy. But purely in terms of the acts being described, they aren't all that lurid. And as many of the comments on these videos point out, there is much wilder stuff out there. For example, these men have clearly not yet discovered nodding, a popular term in romantasy right now that involves werewolves whose penises get so swollen after sex they have to stay inside their partners until the swelling subsides.
First of all, I would like to mention that women gawking at porn is no different than a man gawking at porn. That is the one thing I do agree here. Another thing I want to point out, though, is I did not know that nodding was a thing with dogs, species of canine. But now that I know that it exists, I'm just like, wow, that is... that's both disgusting and outrageous.
Oh, honey, that's not a popular trend in romantasy. That's just a thing real dogs do. Oh, you just don't get it. You don't know what nodding is. What are these women reading, bro? What happened to that, like,
Porn.
stupid fucking corny Hallmark thing, going home for Christmas to your hometown and falling in love with the cute farmer boy? What happened to that? We used to make fun.
Yeah, that's a good question. What did happen to that? I think people wanted more, imagination to their sex stuff, which that's understandable. I mean, I get that, but it is a little weird. But honestly, I don't think it's that, insane. If you stop and think about it.
Of that. We truly did not know what we had until it was gone. Now
I don't think it's necessarily lost. At least not by books. I think it's society that has gotten rid of that, and I really feel like they really shouldn't have done that.
Women out here fantasizing about getting their asses clapped by demons and werewolves and goblins and ghouls.
And what's wrong with that? Like, I feel like men are just as guilty for that than women are. So I feel like there's no like argument here.
I remember when 50 Shades of Grey came out and people were like, oh my god, this is so crazy.
I heard of 50 Shades of Grey, but I never actually seen it or watched it.
Women are crazy. 50 Shades of Grey looks like missionary sex through a bedsheet for the sole purpose of procreation compared to the average woman on TikTok is reading. At least Christian Grey was a human man and not a fucking dog. You fantasize about dating the quiet, shy, nerdy girl. She's innocent, she's pure, she's not like those other girls, like going out clubbing and hooking up with random men. No, she's at home. Curled up by the fire in a blanket, reading a book. Except that book is about fucking
This is where I would like to throw a very interesting theory, is that anybody, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, that if you deny yourself from having sex or jerking off or even not having, a time with the opposite sex, the more hornier you're going to get. And if you don't satisfy those things, it's going to mess with your head eventually, and fantasization is going to go nuts, and you're not going to be able to control it unless you relieve yourself. So it is needed. However, I will say that nerdy women are actually more sexualized than quote-unquote normal girls in a way. But I don't know. I feel like that's comparing apples to oranges, so...
half man, half bull. Let me let you in on a little secret. The quiet nerdy girl is way more of a freak than the average hoe. Are you kidding me? It's not even close. The average hoe might have a body count of like 15 or so, but the quiet nerdy girl is fantasizing about getting back shots from Cthulhu. That is at least 100...
Well, I guess what she's trying to say is that the big difference is that the normal girl is with the normal man, while the nerdy girl is, like, interested in, like, furries and, like, other creatures and stuff, like, fertilization creatures. I will say that there is a small difference between reality versus fantasy, but I feel like there's nothing wrong with fantasization, to be honest. So it just seems like an invalid argument.
bodies. Now listen, there's nothing inherently wrong with fantasizing, okay? There's nothing wrong with roleplay. Fiction is fiction, right? You're not actually going to bang your stepsister, right? These women are not actually going...
Yeah, I find it's kind of weird that there is a lot of porn out there that's about, like, men having sex with their stepsisters. I do think it's a little weird, but I also understand why it's a thing, because let's just say that I had an experience where my stepsister was just hot, okay? So I understand the fantasization of it, but I also understand why people are against it, because you don't want to have like deformed children, you don't want that. But at the same time, it's kind of like hard to resist the fantasization. So having a bunch of like options of like porn to watch satisfies that fantasy is a good thing, in my opinion, because at least you have something to get your mind off it.
Going to bang a cow, or at least I hope not. We all know there is a difference.
I heard a story about a woman who actually tried to have sex with her pet dog, which is fucking disgusting. So I don't know about that.
Between fantasy and reality. Well, what happens when they try to bring fantasy into reality? Well, you get Sinners and Stardust.
Really? Holy hell. Yeah, this is like one of those drunken
What in the eyes
Halloween
wide
parties.
shut is going on here? Sinners and Stardust was supposed to be a dark romance ball for romantasy authors and fans alike.
Okay.
So what's the big deal? Seems like a fun, sexy time, right? Maybe, if you're a woman. If you're a man, the night may have gone a little differently for you.
I have a bad feeling
Alright,
about
y'all,
this.
it appears I have to make a post that I'm frankly pretty goddamn upset I
Okay.
have to make. This post is for the readers who don't understand consent and boundaries only. A lot of you may know my good friend Animus. He's attended a signing of mine in the past and obviously is a musical artist. This
Okay.
past weekend, he attended Sinners and Stardust and probably had one of the most heartbreaking experiences. So
Okay.
listen, he's a man, right? But do we think that means it's okay to put your hands all over him without consent? Or to put your hands in his waistband or down his pants or touch his dick? Hello? Do we think it's okay to quite literally back him into a corner and touch all over him to the point that he literally cannot tell how many hands are on him and whose are whose? Do we think it's okay to send him into an actual panic attack because of this? Furthermore, do we think it's okay to interrogate him and insist he detail how he'd kidnap a woman despite him repeatedly saying he wouldn't do that and that shit is fiction, and then attempt to follow him when he tries to get away? And if that wasn't enough, during the time of this mob, him and another author received notification that an air tag was tracking him, which showed on his person all the way to his hotel room. They molested this guy.
Slow down there, Shue. Slow down. We have a lot to talk about on this one. Earlier, I was okay with fantasization because it's not real. And now this has happened. Now that you tell me this has happened, I won't blame fantasy books for this, but I will say that people need to get their shit together. What's wrong with you guys? Like, what's wrong with you women and men? You guys need to understand that not only what you're reading is fantasy, but you also need to understand that boundaries in real life is a real thing, and you need to respect it. You have to let the other person say yes before you can touch them. It's the rule of you can look, but do not touch rule. And that is the most important rule that we all need to follow. And if we do not follow this rule, you should be arrested for sexual assault, I believe is what it's called.
Until he passed out from anxiety. And then they put a f***ing tracker on him in order to stalk him back to his hotel. This poor...
I feel like that somebody should get arrested for stalking.
Guy dressed like a character in one of the romantasy books at this romantasy convention full of women. That is like throwing roast beef into a pit of wolves. Or in this case, throwing a wolf into a pit of roast beef. I remember years ago there was this thing called cosplay is not consent. Basically it was a campaign to bring attention to the fact that people at conventions would often...
See what I mean? Okay, what I'm going to tell you right now is that is sexy as hell, but I will not touch without asking. And honestly, I don't think I would touch at all, just because that if you want to dress up like this for like, for like cosplay or whatever, that's fine. Especially if it's a Halloween costume, I'm okay with it. Just, expect these women's boundaries. You know what I mean?
Come up to women dressed in sexy costumes and just grope and grab them without their consent. Yeah, apparently we have to bring that back because these women did not get the memo. I've been a furry for over a decade and attended a lot of fur cons. Sure, sometimes weird shit happens, but honestly, I can't believe the dark romance crap.
I might have said some may say furry in a quote-unquote bad way, but actually I don't mean it because there's nothing wrong with furries. If you're a furry, that's fine. I don't really care. I honestly don't think there's nothing wrong with furries. I think furries are fine. It's just gay and lesbian stuff I don't like.
Is out here acting like this. Like, me and my buddies in our fursuits are more respecting of consent and bodily autonomy. Get your shit together, y'all. When the furries are calling you out for being freaks, you need to reflect.
That's a problem.
Something has gone horribly wrong. Not only were the men at this book talk convention assaulted, but women were also assaulted by women. Multiple women, including a performer, reported being assaulted there as well. Even an author there said she was groped and dragged away from her friends and said no matter how many times she said no, quote, "My words did nothing." May I remind you, this is a book convention, okay? For books. Literal BDSM clubs are more respectful than this. There needs to be more studies on how this stuff affects women's brains. Because clearly some are unable to tell the difference between fantasy and reality. Ivy Lipton, a doctoral candidate in human sexuality,
neuron activation,
for EV Magazine. I don't know what a doctoral candidate in human sexuality is, but she's hot, so I trust her. Your brain on orgasms isn't neutral. Dopamine release during climax is a powerful conditioning agent. What you repeatedly fantasize about becomes necessary for arousal. If you're erotic...
That's incorrect. That's completely incorrect. Fantasization. I'll
imagination centers around monstrous
screen.
Violence and submission to non-human entities. Your brain is reprogramming itself to crave just that. It's not empowerment. It's neuroplasticity at its darkest. Scientists, psychologists, and the general public often state that men are visual and women are emotional. When it comes to sex, men can be turned on instantly by a sexual image despite their mood, and women need to be turned on emotionally to get in the mood. So it stands to reason that porn for men is visual and porn for women is in the mind. I'm not equating porn to smut novels because one is a video of two people actually having real sex and the other is, well, just words on paper. I'm, however, talking about the effect on the consumer. We know watching porn is bad for the brain. That's been proven and only rejected by gooners who don't want to give it up. But is reading smut bad? You might say, duh, that's the whole point. Okay, fair enough. So let me rephrase. Is reading smut harmful? Should we shame people for things that are wrong, immoral, or harmful? In my line of work, I've been told many times that shame has no place in sex. But if I use my brain for 2 seconds, it's clear that line of thinking is nonsense. Incest should be shamed, bestiality should be shamed, pedophilia should be shamed. I'm not equating monster smut with these things, but there are 50 shades of gray, so to speak, along the spectrum of harmful. Conditioning your brain and body to associate pleasure with monsters, slavery, or sexual violence is not healthy. Basically, they're
Okay, finally I can talk, so it's not so bright because of freaking... I don't like looking at things that are all white because I struggle with migraines, so I don't want you guys to have the same problem. But regardless, a lot of that was written was completely incorrect because when you get horny, sometimes that fantasization comes to you whether you reprogram it or not. Sometimes it just comes to you. I know this because I experience it. Just like any other normal human being, I'm pretty darn sure, is that, sometimes your fantasization ideas just come to you every now and then, and it's not a bad thing until you use it as a way of, hurting others. And honestly, I feel like this whole situation didn't happen because of, the books. I just think there is a lot of, lack of, respect for people's space. And also, what I was talking about earlier about, the books being a message saying that that women want to rape, they want to be raped, is the may have some part of this, but in that case, it's nothing to do with the books. It's that women want to be raped, so they start showing what they want from the opposite sex, and sometimes they just lose. Like, I think because it was a party, they may have been drunk or something, and they also might have been high. Who knows? It's a party. Anything could happen. But also the when you're partying, it doesn't matter if you're drunk or not. When you have that whole like losing control thing, sometimes your brain just says, "Okay, let's do this," and that's probably what happened. Probably, I don't know, but I just disagree with some of the things that they said. Because it's just not true. Like, no matter how do you put it, because sex isn't bad, smut isn't bad. Like, and saying that that pornography is bad and only rejected because people want. There's no such thing as an addiction to porn. I'm sorry, there's just not. I mean, I watch porn all the time, and I could easily say, you know what, I don't feel like watching porn today, and be able to do that. There's no such thing as addiction to porn. There's only a such thing as addiction to like to drugs and stuff, and alcohol. That does exist. Porn is not a drug, nor is it alcohol. It's not a chemical being shot into your arm like a needle or something. It's just something that you're seeing with your eyes, and it's not a forced injection. It's just like it's like information that's going into your brain, and yes, that can release chemicals and stuff like that in your brain as your reaction to information, but it's not so much that it's uncontrollable. You have the power to switch off the switch anytime you want. It's not like with you're forcing more, you're adding more chemicals that are super powerful, like with drugs and alcohol. You're not adding physical stuff to your body that's adding to that. No, it's nothing to do with that at all. Yes, you're seeing things that are, you're reacting to information, but that information chemical is not very powerful. Because it's not very powerful, it's easy to use the switch button, the switch off button, anytime you want. So, it's all incorrect, and I hate. This is why I hate therapists, because they make all these assumptions, and their assumptions are just flat out wrong.
Like, women are cooked. They are frying their brains with this stuff. It's a pipeline, right? It's like the infamous evil alt-right pipeline. You start watching ShoeOnHead, owning the feminists in 2015, and then in 2025, you're hailing Hitler, right? The alt-right pipeline. And this one's like, you're reading Morning Glory Milking Farm, and the next thing you know, you're Mrs. Hands, right? Just say no.
Yeah, I don't. She's right. I mean, basically, just because you read Morning Glory Milk and Farm and whatever smut that's out there, doesn't mean that you're Mrs. Hands. It doesn't mean that at all. I think it's like that whole thing. I remember watching an interview with people who made the Friday the 13th series, and they said, it's not me, as in like the smart people. It's not the intelligent people that it's dangerous to. It's those other people out there. Those people who don't know how to watch a movie. Those people who do not know how to separate fantasy from reality. The people who are mentally unwell, basically. But here's the problem that pisses me off about society, and I'm probably going to go on a tirade. If those people are mentally unwell, why are they free? They should be in a mental hospital. So, It's not our it's not our fault as the artist's fault. No, it is the authorities' fault for letting those people be out there. They should be taken to a mental hospital and treated. Enough said.
Say no to monster porn. But why is monster smut so popular with women in particular? Like, you rarely see the opposite, and when you do, it's just like a girl with cat ears.
Well, I hate to tell you this, Shoe, but you're also kind of incorrect about the rarely seeing the opposite. Well, technically, never mind. I think that's... Okay, so... Here's the thing. Men are very good at keeping their sexual fantasies under lock and key. So if they do have a monster smut concept, most people don't know about it because they keep it under lock and key, because they're very good at locking away their Mr. Hyde away, basically. They're very good at, hiding Mr. Hyde. This is actually pretty, yeah. Well, this is basically the furry thing, and I guess what she's trying to say is that this is different from the cow design, and technically she's right, but also kind of wrong at the same time, because it's a cat.
And fangs, or like a 10-foot-tall Dami-Mami vampire with giant titties. Meanwhile, women are like, I want to the pollution monster from Fern Gully. So people on Reddit asked this very question. Let's see the responses. Why do you guys like monster romances? Asking for a friend. Several reasons. 1, human men are quite often terrible. Romance books with human men are already partly fantasy, but monsters just takes the fantasy bit further. 2, it's sort of human nature to imagine relationships with paranormal beings and creatures. We've been doing it in literature and art for centuries. It's just gotten a lot more graphic now, lol. 3, unique body forms / parts and so many different...
So basically she's saying that there's a lot of women... I'm sorry that you guys have to stare at this. There's a lot of women who hate men because of the quote-unquote patriarchy, which is a delusion in their heads, plain and simple. But the second one, she's correct about, the infantilization and stuff is, well, it's not harmful. We'll put it that way. And yes, we've been doing it in literature for ages, and it's always been that way. And it's something that we should keep because it's part of human art.
Different kinds of dicks. Scary, mean, terrifying creature is sweet to her, kind, takes care of her, protects her, works hard to be gentle, etc. Maximal escapism, minimal association to real-life assholes, the patriarchy, misogyny, and oppression of women, etc., etc. Because the monsters are less dangerous than dating actual men. As a fat woman of color, modern, contemporary, and even fantasy romances are hard to click to because they are almost always about thin white women and just too realistic. And romance in real life is not always attainable for fat women / women of color. In monster alien romance, though, my size doesn't matter, and it's easier to get into that headspace and enjoy it. I'm sick of the men on Earth and looking for some variety. Non-humans haven't betrayed and hurt me, so they feel like a safe haven, if that makes sense. Plus the unusual.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Monsters have big, fun-shaped cocks. I love some bizarre peen. Unique genitalia.
I wonder if that's the same thing with that anime I was talking about before, with the fantasization of like monster girls, is that the unique genitalia as well. But I hardly doubt that. I don't know. It just seems. I don't know. That does seem weird, but I also am not going to judge that much about it just because it's fantasy. So it would be stupid to say, "Oh, that's weird. You're weird and evil for even thinking that." That's just no. Because honestly, men are guilty of the same thing, for one, and for two, it's stupid to talk about because it's fantasy. It's artwork, We should say bad things about artwork in that way. I mean, I can understand if someone doesn't like it, but it's another thing to make claims that are about artwork that's just not true. You know what I mean?
I don't know what I was expecting, honestly. A lot of women's smut, especially monster smut, is about submission, domination, forced breeding,
Rape.
non-consensual consent. The women are like conquered and taken and overpowered by these monsters. And I think many of these women are reading these books containing monsters and not men because masculinity and dominance in men has been completely demonized in modern society. But the truth is, many women still crave it. You see, the monsters in these stories have those like dominant masculine traits that women like so much,
but I'm not going
but
back.
they're not human men. They have all these traits women desire without the problematic baggage human men bring, without being the men they hate or have been told to hate. It is the perfect guilt-free slop. But they don't just want a wild dominant man. They want to tame a wild dominant man. Similar to when a man sees an art hoe with a nose.
So it's like they want to tame the monster, and that still doesn't make a lot of sense. It sounds kind of rapey and gross, actually, but you know, if you want to fantasize that about that, that's fine. As long as you keep it behind locked doors and not force it down other people's throat, it's fine.
Ring. You can save her from her daddy issues. You can do it. It definitely won't backfire and ruin your life. Go for it. Go talk to her. With many women, there's this desire for like danger and aggression, but also the desire to tame that danger and aggression. The desire to be that special woman who can melt his heart. You see, my dragon boyfriend could rip me to shreds and kill me instantly, but he won't because he's nice and he loves me. But honestly, at the end of the day, just like
They could be like mixing fear with hormones, which that can be a thing.
the video I made about the anime girl in a wheelchair where men were saying, this is the average male fantasy, and a bunch of women were like, you wanna rape a disabled girl? When in reality it was just a distilled manifestation of the average male fantasy, which is to protect and provide for a sweet woman.
The anime thing was more normal, I would say, but the Morning Gorilla Milking Farm book is a lot weirder, I will say, because the person's a cow or a minotaur. It has nothing to do with that. What makes it weird is it sounds like that women want to be raped, and that's the part that's weird about it.
And save her. This is like basically the flip of that, right? This is just the distilled manifestation of the female fantasy. Men are seeing this and they're saying, what do you mean you want to milk a minotaur? When in
or in my case, what do you mean you want to be raped by a minotaur?
reality, it's just to have a big, strong protector and provider swoop you up and save you. And like I said in that video, they're basically
like that,
both
but
the same
yeah, it could
fantasy.
be.
This is a tale as old as time, the princess being saved from the dragon by a knight in shining armor, whether the dragon be a wheelchair or student loans, you know? But in this case, the woman is being f***ed by the dragon, and the knight sits in the corner and watches or something, I don't know. Maybe it's not that deep. There are some hungers better starved than fed. And maybe as women, for the sake of society, we have to starve our hunger for minotaur p***ness.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the, that's the moral of this video. So what do you guys think? What is
Neuron activation.
your theory? Why is the monster romance genre so popular with women in particular? And who is your weirdest hero?
Why is monster smut popular with women? It could be a combination of hatred toward men and yeah, I think it's just hatred towards men, and that's pretty much it for the most part.
Hear me out. Be honest. I don't want to hear no Lola Bunny, okay? You all know mine already.
I don't know. Oh, I know who. Okay, yeah. So weirdest, hear me out. The weirdest hear me out that comes to mind is Princess Ada from Bug's Life. That's my weirdest Hear Me Out. And honestly, okay, so Hear Me Out. She's very, she has almost like a shy personality, and she's a princess, so combination of sugar mama and has almost a caring personality. And on top of that, weirdly enough, for an ant, she has some nice curves, which is pretty impressive. And yeah, even though I'm pretty darn sure the being in bed thing would be weird, but I'll still bite. I'll still go for it. Because why the hell not?
It's not that he's a fish, okay? He has an energy, okay? He has a vibe. You know what, never mind. And I will see you guys again really soon with a new video. Bye!
Yeah, we'll do another one. I'll do another one some other time. Probably like a few days later. I'll do another old Shoe on Ahead video. But for now, I'm gonna let these 3 videos sit for, I don't know, maybe a week, maybe a month, or we'll see. But anyways, please like, subscribe, and this is your Duke signing out.